Ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed viewers from around the world, welcome to the second session into the series looking into the stories and needs of boys and men who have been victimized by human trafficking and child sexual abuse. These issues are deeply significant and are often overlooked. Today we gather with a collective purpose to shed light on the stories, their pain, and above all, a journey towards healing. For far too long, society has perpetuated the notion that vulnerability is weakness, reserved for one gender alone. We must challenge this misconception and recognize the immense courage that it takes for male survivors to confront and share their experiences. Their resilience serves as a testament to the human spirit, transcending the confines of gender stereotypes and social expectations. In this video presentation, we will embark on a journey of understanding, empathy, and empowerment. We will delve into the narratives of those that have endured unimaginable traumas, of hidden beneath the shroud of secrecy and shame. By shining a light on these stories, we hope to ignite a profound shift in the way that we perceive and support male survivors. Through the lens of healing, we shall explore this multifaceted aspect of the recovery and acknowledging the unique characteristics they share while honoring their strength and determination. It is our collective responsibility to create these safe spaces for survivors, ones that foster compassion, validation, and belief that they are deserving of healing, justice, and a life free from the shackles of their past. Together, we can forge a path towards healing and understanding, and a future where no survivor suffers alone in silence. And thank you again, Michael, for having me back here today as we continue to share more of my research. And also thank you to Brave Education for focusing on prevention and making sure that no child is left behind. So let's dive into the literature. What is known already? So we already know that this is happening, that the frontline providers and others do not have properly responded to the situation, and they have stated their own biases, as well as society not seeing men as victims. And 3, that men are not disclosing or identifying as victims. So I found 4 main issues with this. So number 1, that this is historic. Psychopathic Sexuales is more than over 100 years old, and that is a book on the sexual abuse of underage boys by adults. And this is a phenomenon described by scholarly inquiry into the pathology of human sexual behavior. And in 1886, we see the first reference to the term sadism, which is associated with the sexual pathology against violence of underage boys by adults. There is also a gender bias. So child sexual abuse and exploitation through human trafficking has focused primarily on female victimization and male perpetration. According to the literature, human trafficking has a gender bias, which has been reinforced by a social narrative that males are perpetrators and females are victims, thus creating this preconception that against males that have been sexually victimized, and socially established blinders for female perpetrators that are abusers, traffickers, or buyers. Number 3, that there are numerous barriers to disclosure. Survivors face multiple interior and exterior barriers to be considered a victim, including societal bias against them and feeling of shame, guilt, and that's only to name a couple. That there is an inadequate recognition of responsiveness. Recent studies suggest that male victims have met with inadequate recognition and responsiveness when they're asking for protection. For example, traditional gender norm stereotypes appear to inhibit service providers when they're trying to recognize boys compared to when they're trying to recognize girls. So the literature review led to this core research question, which was, what were the needs and stories of male survivors of child sexual abuse and human trafficking for sexual exploitation? The reason for this is because many people usually like to tell us what we need without even asking us. As service providers and frontline staff, we can do this, and it comes with a lot of damage because we can be causing more harm without even knowing it. And especially when it comes to vulnerable groups, this needs to be survivor-led. So I used a framework that's called the transformative social justice design. And this means that the research had a goal that whatever I uncovered, I had to give back to the male survivor community. This influenced every step. Using my perspective, my values, my assumptions, my interpretations had to be clear in order to facilitate a deep understanding and engagement. In line with embracing the transformative social justice framework, it gave me a moral responsibility and commitment to the very people and the community of whom I was engaging with. And this framework aimed to work with male survivors in a respectful way, building towards active participation for both experts and survivors, but as well as a call to work towards greater equity in society for male victims. One of the first findings that were an understanding of how male and female were victimized differently. So according to IOM data, we see that boys are primarily victimized at a very young age. So we see here in the first red box. When comparing male victimology in terms of age, a fifth of all male victims trafficked into sexual exploitation were under the age of 11. And the general victimization of girls ranges from 11 onwards, spiking later in their teenage years. And in 2018, a few studies found that infants, toddlers, and male victims of all ages receive the harshest forms of abuse and torture. And so in my research, the majority of cases at 87.5% were below the age of 8 when they experienced their first instance of child sexual abuse. This illustrates that there are varying exploitation patterns for females and males, therefore highlighting the very important need to tailor our approach between boys and girls. So perpetrator profiles in the research were very surprising as they were so different than what we are told by media and society. So for example, the presence of female perpetrators was nearly universal in this study in 60% of the cases. Within the trafficking cases, 10 out of the 12 participants reported that women either trafficked or abused them sexually, and 6 of those participants reported that their mothers were the leading perpetrators in their trafficking. These findings are consistent with a recent study on intrafamilial trafficking, where perpetrators in both studies were mothers. We can see here that in my study, the mothers came in at the highest percentage of sexual abusers. Additionally, family members or those known to the child were also the greatest number of abusers in this sample, showing us that child abuse and trafficking does not go in line with the common conception of what abuse and trafficking perpetrators are and what we see in media, which is usually done by strangers. This research also looked into the role of women in sexual exploitation of boys, both inside and outside the family. Findings from the academic literature and discussion with survivors suggested that female perpetrators present a unique challenge for investigators and frontline professionals in contact with exploited boys. Sexually abusive relationships between women and boys can be difficult to identify because women often hold a societally accepted dominant role over boys as their mothers, their teachers, their caregivers, or simply as older female family members that have more seniority. Women who hold these roles can also usually bathe, dress, examine, or touch children in ways that does not normally arise suspicion from others. The advantage position can be that they can easily leverage this if they're intending to sexually exploit a child. On the other hand, boys who are sexually exploited by female family members or women generally might also struggle to identify themselves as victims because they might perceive their experience as enjoyable or pleasurable. And this creates a significant impediment to disclosure, as boy victims themselves might not realize that there is a problem in the first place. And it may be only years later when a boy or a man reflects on that relationship where they can feel uncomfortable, used, or that something wasn't right. So some of the earlier literature on child sexual exploitation suggests that women involvement in these crimes are usually supporting roles by enabling men in their lives to exploit the children, as opposed to actively being involved in the activity. And earlier studies described that as they're more passive and characterize it by a woman's failure to protect the child or aiding and abetting the male abuser as opposed to direct involvement. And this is a very striking contrast with this study's findings, where women were reported to display a diverse range of severity of violence. Survivors told me that women clearly trafficked and exploited them sexually. Some of them did it in a caring or nurturing manner as part of the grooming process, while others were extremely sadistic and even could be seen as taking enjoyment in causing pain and suffering in these victims. Frontline professionals in this context with children who suspect that they might be victims within their family should always take in consideration the possibility that mothers or female family members could be the perpetrators.
My neck really hurts today. So does my back, my stomach, my head. Why can't I seem to connect with people? I keep pushing them all away. Why do I get so angry? The substance helps, but only for a short time. Why don't I feel like anyone is worth trusting? Why am I this way? Why am I messed up? Why do I feel so alone? Why am I such a loner? What happened to me?
Hey, are we playing a game? Wait, I don't understand.
What? That can't be real.
No, I don't like this. It's scaring me.
No, this isn't real.
No, stop, please, it hurts.
Did this happen to me? Did this actually happen to me? Why can't I remember more of it? I feel like I'm going crazy. Why did this happen to me? Is there anyone that would even believe me?
Why me?
I feel so unlovable. Do I even deserve love after this? If this really happened? Why me? Am I the only one this happened to? I'm so alone. I thought this only happens to girls. Am I a freak? It makes me feel so weak. I'm supposed to be a man. Is there anyone out there like me? Is there anyone that would understand my pain? Is there anyone that would even believe me? I want to know if this is real. Why does no one believe me? I wish I could just talk to someone about this.
Part of the reason healing is so difficult for men is the stereotyping all of the world dumps on us. And we're doing a great job of joining in and doing it to ourselves. This adds to so much shame and guilt.
The lies we are told and we believe.
She was older than you. You are so lucky.
Everything must have been consensus because I am gay.
I have a female body type and female characteristics. Thus, I must have been asking for it.
I should have manned up. Real men aren't abused. I must have asked for it.
Real men don't show emotion. Why didn't you just fight back? Real men are tough.
There's no need for consent because you're gay.
One of my survivors explained to me that because he was older, there was this belief that after 18 you can protect yourself, you can fight someone off. But he experienced several uncomfortable situations, being touched, being harassed, and being assaulted. He said, I couldn't run, I couldn't talk, I couldn't move. The way my body reacted was to freeze. In other situations, I would say no, but there was no ability to fight. Men can experience the body shutting down and freezing. There is no fighting or punching, which is crazy because before I even took boxing classes, I knew how to fight, but in this moment, I couldn't even raise my arms, let alone my voice. I want you all to imagine and feel what most of these men have gone through, and to remember most were under the age of 10 when this happened. They were sexually abused, assaulted, tortured, hurt, and trafficked. And even worse, they feel like they can't even speak about it because they're not allowed to express their emotion or feel this pain inside. So what is keeping male victims silent? The perception of masculinity, where boys feel like they can't show emotions or be seen as weak. Guilt, shame, fear, this is all part of the grooming process, where an adult uses manipulation, gaslighting, and emotional and mental abuse in order to have full control over the child. Threats towards the victim's family and extreme physical violence on the child. Dissociation and complex PTSD. Many survivors experience a complete loss of memory, which is the brain's way of protecting itself from the trauma. Many survivors can go decades without any memories of the exploitation. Then one day, potentially, they might regain those memories. And in that moment, they will not trust themselves, they will not trust their memories, they will think they're crazy, and they will not know what to do. Minimal coverage of male victims in the media, news, and reports. There's also minimal support services for male victims, and the resources for female victims do not always work for male victims. Not being believed. All 33 survivors tried to tell family, friends, medical staff, ER staff, and police, and were not believed. And this is to the degree that some male survivors were even given back to their abusers or traffickers by police and medical staff. And finally, abused boys are so scared of telling someone that they've been abused or trafficked, thinking that they will also be seen as future abusers. We need to stop telling these lies to boys and men, no matter what they were wearing, look like, characteristics, body type, sexual orientation, or what they identify as. We need to stop victim blaming and just listen. Be that person in their lives that finally show them respect, kindness, dignity, love, and support. I would like to introduce best practices for policymakers and law enforcement. We need to check our biases. What do we believe? And is that based on facts? We need a greater awareness of male victims. And male children need to see visual representation, such as in pictures and videos of other boys in campaigns and websites, in order to feel safe enough to come forth. We need to include survivors, for they are the true experts. Survivors are the real experts. Their lived experience and their perspectives can better help inform our policies and our legislation and make them more effective. Survivor engagement is so important. It is building effective victim-centric, trauma-informed anti-trafficking strategies that address prevention, protection, and include reducing demand, assisting victims, and promoting more effective prosecution of the perpetrators. And number 4, more funding for research on male survivors, as well as for buyers and perpetrators. If we get a better understanding of what is driving these crimes, maybe we can better prevent and combat it. The survivors also gave me suggestions for law enforcement on how to help. If there is a trafficking or sexual abuse case, it will likely relate back to the family the child comes from. We need a greater awareness of female perpetrators. This is also so important for female survivors of female abusers. A better understanding of trauma and its effects on victims, especially during the interview stage. Dissociation does not mean that the victim is lying. This is the brain's way of protecting the victim from remembering all the trauma. This will better help with understanding the behaviors that a survivor may exhibit. For example, Stockholm Syndrome. A victim may be reluctant to testify against their abuser or trafficker after years of manipulation. We also need more female police officers, especially for male child victims that were exploited by men. Interviews have shown that there is better recovery, easier disclosure, and increase in trust when surrounded by female service providers. And in many cases, it was the police or hospital staff that had knowledge of trauma-informed care that were the ones that were able to identify and rescue these boys from trafficking. Do you know a survivor of child sexual abuse, exploitation, or trafficking? Here are some things that you can do. When they are ready to talk, listen to understand and believe them. You can say, "How can I help you?" Do not cut off your relationship with a survivor that has just recently opened up to you. Yes, life can be busy, but it is vital to continue your relationship with your friend or family member. Treat them as a human being with kindness and respect. Don't just see them as a victim. See them for who they are. And also encourage them to seek out help. This can be through community groups, online groups, therapy, or counseling services. Are you a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, exploitation, or trafficking? And even if you do not know at this time, here are some services and websites for you to look at. These organizations provide access to an international community of male survivors, online chat forums to safely interact with other male survivors anonymously, online and in-person healing retreats, online educational webinars, YouTube videos on past events, live events for sharing stories, and international helplines, and more. To any male victim or survivor out there, we are listening. And we believe you. You are not crazy. You are worthy of love, respect, and healing. So let's do better for those victims and survivors in our lives. Let's stop listening to those lies and check our biases. And hopefully men and boys will start getting the help they need. And finally, I want to thank all my partners in this research. Thank you to the experts that have been on the front lines and have been working with victims and survivors for many years, dedicating their lives to this cause. And thank you to each survivor who participated in these studies. Your expertise has really helped me understand the crimes, and hopefully now we can give back to you and to the male survivor communities. Let us remember that the healing of male survivors of human trafficking and child sexual abuse is not just an individual journey, but a collective responsibility. It is a call for action for each one of us to break the barriers of silence, stigma, and gender biases. By standing together, offering support, and advocating for their rights, we can create a world that embraces the strength and resilience of male survivors. Let us be agents of change, fostering empathy, understanding, and a culture of healing. Together we can inspire hope, empower survivors, and pave the way for a future where all survivors can thrive and find a place of solace in their journey of healing. Thank you.